Good morning, my wild and beautiful friends. Thanks so much for coming by. Today we are making root beer Christmas cookies. Why? Because I just found out they're Steve's favorite cookie, and honestly, I didn't even know they existed. So today we're gonna veganize them. Keep on watching to see how we do it. Okie dokie guys, to get this batter rolling, we're gonna start with making some vegan buttermilk. So we're just adding a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar to 1/4 of a cup of any kind of non-dairy milk. I'm using a vanilla soy here. I'm also making 1 flax egg out of our flax egg replacer here. You can also just use ground flax. And we're gonna let those set while we buzz up our brown sugar and our butter. So for our butter, I'm using a stick of Country Crock's plant-based olive oil butter. I'm really liking it. It has a really mild, creamy, delicious flavor. It's a little less harsh than the Earth Balance brand, which I also really like. They're both good. I just like butter. So I'm whipping that up with a cup of packed brown sugar. And now I have got 2 cups of flour, then a 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just going to whisk these dry ingredients together just to get out any of those big lumps before we add it to our wet ingredients. And we do have a couple more key wet ingredients. Now that our flax egg and our vegan buttermilk have set up, I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract to either one of them, and then a full teaspoon of this root beer extract. You can find it at most grocery stores. It's pretty common, at least in Utah, and I know Utah is a very much pro root beer state. So if not, I'll link below where you can find it online, but I think it's a pretty common flavoring. This extract smells pretty pungent, so I'm thinking a teaspoon will do. We'll see. Still a little bit of an experiment since I've never even heard of these cookies before. Okay, now that our butter and our brown sugar is nice and soft and fluffy, I'm going to add all of our wet ingredients. We're just going to keep on mixing it up, making sure to scrape down the sides to get everything really nice and incorporated. And then we're just going to slowly add our dry ingredients until everything's just barely combined. We don't want to overwork the dough. This is looking good and smelling fabulous. I'm just using a wooden spoon here to kind of mix in the rest of that flour real quick. And then we're going to just turn this out onto some saran wrap and get it in the fridge for at least an hour. I do think that I'll probably just keep it in the fridge overnight and then make the cookies in the morning. You could also freeze your dough at this point. Once you get it in the saran wrap, you can just put it in a freezer type Ziploc bag or container and freeze it until you want to use it. And just because I'm curious, does anybody else here struggle with saran wrap as bad as I do? I feel like a toddler when I use saran wrap. This sheet ended up being not too crinkled up, though. We didn't waste too much this time. I'm just plopping that dough onto there, and we're going to wrap it up in kind of like a large puck shape. It does seem a little sticky, but I think it'll firm right on up in the fridge. Good morning again. It's the next day. Our dough has been sitting overnight in the fridge. It's firmed up really nicely. Once you've got a firm dough, you can definitely just roll these into balls and throw them in the oven. But since it's Christmas time, I thought I'd get a little bit more bougie with it and make some fancy little Christmas looking cookies. So I've just got some flour on our work surface here and our dough, and I'm pressing it out. And then I'm going to take our super fancy and technical looking cup rolling pin to roll out our dough to about 1/4 of an inch thick. And we'll start cutting out those cookies. I found this adorable little kind of woodland cookie cutter set at our local kitchen supply store. There's a mushroom and a gnome and a funky little Christmas tree. So we're gonna try these guys out and hope they keep their shapes a little bit. So I'm just going to, well, you know the drill. I'm gonna cut out our cookies, put the dough back together, cut out more cookies. And then the one thing I am gonna do is throw our cookies once they're on our cookie sheet back into the fridge so they get nice and cold, in hopes that they won't expand too much when we bake them. So I'll let them chill out in the fridge for 5 to 10 minutes, and then we'll bake them at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for 6 to 8 minutes. I want them to look slightly underdone like so, because Steve definitely likes a chewier root beer cookie. So we've let these guys cool on a wire rack. They've kind of deflated a little bit, but the shapes aren't too terrible. The gnomes are iffy, but I think we can decorate them so they look cute. And then just use whatever frosting you like. I'm doing a little vegan hack here because I didn't have vegan powdered sugar to make frosting. So I've got a white frosting that's already made. I'm going to add just a couple drops of that root beer extract. And we're going to mix it on up. It's going to make this really pretty beige color that'll work nicely with our rustic woodland cookies. I've got it in a pastry bag, and at this point you do you. Use some sprinkles, use some powdered sugar, use bunches of different kinds of frostings. I think this is, of course, something that would be really fun to do with your kids. Little spin on it with the root beer. We're gonna go crazy. So my version of crazy decorating, this is what I'm using just in case you wanted to know. We've got our root beer icing here. I've also got some all-natural sprinkles. It's a little bit hard to find colored vegan sprinkles. So I found these guys. You can find them online, but I also found some at our local kitchen supply store. I'm just going to pick out the Christmas colors and then reuse the sprinkles at another time. And then I'm just going to have some fun here. I did decide to color a little bit of that root beer icing green to get our gnome hats. But you do you, decorate until your heart's content. And these cookies I've been taste testing are absolutely fabulous on their own. So if you want to just make like drop cookies, they'd be great. Or you could just dust them with a little bit of powdered sugar to make them look a little bit more festive. And you are good to go.
Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about? I can tell you what Christmas is all about.
Chestnuts roasting, Jack Frost nipping at your nose.
And there you have it, super simple, delicious, veganized root beer Christmas cookies. That was a mouthful. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope that you're staying safe and healthy, and I can't wait to talk to you soon. Cheers.